What's up? What's up, y'all? This is Mike. I'm here with Hollister, Tyrone, and Menelik, and we're back again. As you all know, NBA season is quickly approaching, and there's a lot of things to talk about. Not that many, but quite a few things. So we have a couple of topics we're going to talk about today, and we'll see where it goes. But first and foremost, we want to talk about the big blockbuster trade that happened recently this week, where John Wall was traded from the Washington Wizards to the Houston Rockets for Russell Westbrook. And I have my opinions on that trade, and how that team could be. But I wanted to get you guys' opinion to see like how you guys feel the fit will work with like Russ and Beal and or James Harden and John Wall. So let's start with Melo.
All right, so I know we briefly touched on it previously when they first talked about the trade, and it was like it wasn't a definitive thing. It was saying they was disgruntled and this and that, and it was like it would be a good like money swap move for both teams and et cetera, et cetera. So after that, then it died down, and the Wizards came out and said like John Wall never said that, and he didn't want to trade and all this other kind of stuff, and then they end up going through with the trade. So this is how I feel. I feel like as far as Houston, I understand why they did what they did. They were in a position. Westbrook had a contract that was really hard, that would be really hard to move. And him and Harden, they didn't want to play together anymore. I mean, it wasn't that bad last year. I think they actually did a good job because at the beginning of the year everybody felt like the two of them wouldn't have been able to play together. They still actually did all right playing together. They both got some numbers, but definitely Westbrook had to kind of somewhat take a back seat and not play true to his game, so he wanted out of there. So I think that John Wall, he's a little more pass oriented than Westbrook. As John Wall could get buckets too. I think he averaged like 19 for his career so far. Like he's around that mark, but he's definitely more of a assist guy than. I mean, Westbrook is an assist guy too because he traveled to triple double, but in a different way. Like John Wall is
Yeah.
more of a pass the ball first kind of a closer to that than Westbrook. So I think if Harden does stay, and with Christian Wood, if Dalton Marcus Cousins healthy, et cetera, Houston would still be a playoff team. As far as the Wizards, I think that Westbrook would be able to play with Beal because Beal could get buckets without necessarily having a ball in his hand. So I think it'll be a good look. And then obviously Scott Brooks, who was Westbrook coach in OKC when he was thriving, and they have that relationship is over there. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they move. And obviously Westbrook, former MVP, still in his prime. So it should be interesting to see.
Okay, that's cool. Hollister.
Yeah, I agree with everything Menelik pretty much said. As far as the John Wall, hopefully he's healthy enough. Since he had played what about 2 years. Hopefully he's recovered from all his injuries. I think him and Harden will work well together, but part of me feel like Westbrook and Beal will be more of a better fit together because they kind of understand like all right, they could feed off each other, Beal and Westbrook, and plus they got Scott Brooks who knows how to coach Westbrook. Not saying everybody else can't, but I guess he could kind of tame Westbrook, when he has his moments. And I think also Westbrook will get the rest of the team, playing hard and playing good. But the Houston Rockets as well too look good with DeMarcus Cousins. Hopefully he's healthy as well. James Harden, Westbrook. I mean Wall and Cousins. They played together in college in Kentucky. It should be interesting to see how everything works out. I think both teams it will work out for both of them, even though they kind of like the same kind of like play in some ways. But Wall's more of like a facilitator and Westbrook more like an attacker. But it should be fine for both teams.
Fair point. Fair point. Tyrone.
As far as Houston, I'm kind of a little got a little mixed reaction towards them for the deal because what direction are you going in? A rebuild or retool, or are you going to be in the middle of the pack? This trade to me just puts them in the middle of the pack because Harden wants out. Yeah, he has only 2 years. I think he has 2 years left on his deal, so they don't really have to trade him. But I don't think he wants to be there, and he didn't. I think they said that he didn't show up to individual workouts. So I don't know if that's going to be the beginning of some kind of holdout with him. Steven Silas says he hasn't even communicated with him yet, so I don't really know what the story is with that. So with the Houston, I mean, they did pick up Boogie. Man, who knows? I'm rooting for Boogie. I'm a fan of Boogie Cousins, so I hope he can, come back and even be half as, if he could be half as what it used to be, that'll be a good combination. It's nice to have him and, Wall together again from the Kentucky days. Um, they did pick up Christian Wood, who had a strong second half with Detroit last year when they traded Drummond. So that's a good pickup. But they did lose Covington, of course, Russ. They traded Trevor Ariza like 8 times. Um, I think, Eric Gordon's still there, but he's never healthy. So I don't really know. Austin Rivers is gone. So a lot of guys that was on that team last year not going to really be there this year. So I don't really know. I really don't know what direction Houston's going in, but to be honest, they were better off getting Westbrook for a bunch of expiring contracts, if you ask me. Yes, Wall is 2 years younger, but he is coming off of two serious injuries. People forgot that he also I forgot what the first injury was, but he tore the Achilles while recovering from the other injury. But people just know the Achilles because it's more serious, and it was the recent one. So that's something to think about. So I don't really know what Houston's direction is right now, to be honest with you. As far as the Wizards, I think this is a great deal for them because I think Beal and Westbrook could play together. Westbrook is a playmaker. He does like the ball a lot, but I think with Bertans there, Mo Wagner, like a lot of those they have shooters there. So Westbrook, that'll help Westbrook out a lot. I think it's a good pickup for Russ to go to Houston. I mean to Washington. So I like it on that part. Yeah, but I like it for his side, to be honest with you. And then yes, he does get to go back and play with Scott Brooks, who he had a good relationship with. So I think Washington won the deal, and I'm kind of just clueless on Houston, to be honest.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I kind of agree with all you guys, which I have the pieces y'all have to say. I mean, it's yet to be seen. Like, obviously, we don't know how these guys are going to play with each other. I mean, a lot of times, all things look good on paper, and we can see based on like certain track records that things can possibly work. But seeing like how Bradley Beal came into his own after John Wall been out for a while, and hearing the rumors that he actually wanted John Wall traded, and then he coming up with his Instagram post the other day thanking John Wall for like giving an opportunity and being like his road dog and etc. and etc. Same thing with the James Harden situation. You hear that James Harden actually wanted, obviously they said they couldn't play with each other, but he had said he actually wanted John Wall to be on the team. So to me, it's a lot of like what ifs and what's happening. I really do believe, like what Tyrone said, and like a lot of people feel that James Harden is, pretty much wants to leave the Houston Rockets and start a new path somewhere else. And I know obviously people are saying Brooklyn and everything like that, but that's a lot to give up for him. And the team is not trying to just give him up for nothing. So, I mean, we don't even know how KD and Kyrie will play yet with the pieces that we have already with the Nets to say that, oh, we actually could, use a James Harden. Not to trying to say if you can't get another superstar, don't try to get him, but to kind of bankrupt your team for him, I don't think that's a wise move on that part. And I think Sean Marks kind of knows that. So he's probably like, I'm just going to wait him out and see what's going to happen. Because if James Harden decides to be disgruntled, don't want to play and different things like that, they might try to move him faster than, waiting to see who they can get from. So we'll see. But as far as with the Houston Rockets situation, I mean, if James Harden kind of buys in and they play together, I think he could still kind of work with them. I don't think it has to be like John Wall being like that natural guy, always have to have the ball in his hand. He is one of those kind of pure, point guards who can kind of score, but to have him like sitting up, spotting up, I don't think that's going to work. So most likely, one of them going to have to, change their play style to accommodate the other. And like you said with the Boogie, I'm rooting for him too because he was about to get max deal, ruptured his Achilles, then he went to the Golden State Warriors, played towards quad, then he came back and ready for the Lakers towards ACL. So he's been, dealing with injuries for so long that the man he missed out on that bag. And I feel really bad for players like him, Isaiah Thomas, who like sacrificed a lot for their team. and then they got hurt, and then obviously the NBA is kind of like, you know, they can't really fit where we want them, so they're not going to get the money or even a decent contract to kind of keep them around. So I hope Boogie does well, and John Wall and Boogie obviously has relationships there with boys, so it should be good to see. As far as the Washington situation, I think it should be so. As far as the Washington situation, Beal, I don't know how that's going to work, because even though he didn't necessarily need the ball in his hand, like how like maybe John Wall might have needed it and different things like that, but Russell Westbrook is similar to like a John Wall type of player. So you was mad at the fact that when you was playing with John Wall, that you wasn't getting enough touches and stuff like that, and you think that Russ is going to come over there and like be like the guy where he's going to be like giving up most of the stuff. Russ is going to want to be the guy who have the ball in his hands to make the decisions and make the plays and different things like that. It might not be the most attractive or clean way of doing things, but you're going to be pretty much in the same predicament. I mean, yeah, Bradley Beal can spot up and shoot. He can create his own shot. He can do different things like that, but I really don't know how that's going to work, to be quite honest. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I know he's wearing number 4. That's a weird thing. And then Gilbert Arenas is like, oh, I want you to wear my number 0. That'll be an honor. We'll see. But it's just a weird dynamic for me. I mean, we all have to see what happens. So, yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion on that. I mean, it is a big deal. It is a big trade. But we'll see.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, like you were saying, I do think it is kind of a little bit of a weird fit, but at the same time, it's not exactly the same. But I would just say I could see it being somewhat like how it was with George. Beal and Paul George are not the same kind of players, but I could just see them being able to play together somewhat a little bit more like that, because Beal is a little closer to that than Harden is. Once again, I still don't know if it'll work, but I think it might have a potential for that reason. I think it could be something similar to how he was when Paul George was in OKC with him. So hopefully, though, they can figure that out.
I agree. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to the season starting. I'm looking forward to seeing how these matchups going to be. I know next week starts training camp starts preseason. I think the 13th is when the preseason starts. So
I think it's the 11th.
Yeah, the 11th.
Sure. I could be wrong,
I think it's probably either 11th or 3rd. I think the 13th is when the Nets
11th.
play, but the 11th is next Friday. That's when the preseason.
Yeah, it's the
starts.
11th.
So, so that should be fun to watch and see and everything like that. And I'm looking forward to see like how these guys look. Who worked out on the off season, who got ready, who prepared and everything like that, and to take it from there and to see how this all pans out. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of different things going on this year as it was with the bubble. It's going to be a lot of like, I know they said they're not, testing for marijuana. I know they said they're going to you can't go to no large gatherings and clubs and bars, the players and the staff. So, and we already see what's going on with the NFL, like how they still, having games in each other's arenas, but then you have like a game the other day where quarterbacks can't even play because they got COVID or they're on the COVID list, so they can't even play. So I wonder how that's going to affect not only the season, but like games where the players are maybe like the whole starting 5 got a quarantine and they can't play. Like, will they forfeit the game? Will they like postpone it? And even for us who play fantasy sports, how that's going to affect that. I mean, that's going to be something interesting as well to see. And everything like that.
Make adjustments.
Yeah, of course.
Make adjustments.
Yeah. So segueing to the next topic, and like I said, after this topic, we can bring up some other stuff. But these are the 2 topics I mainly had. I was going to invite Lucas and maybe Aubrey and even one of our other guys, if we know Kelvin, but it was just such a short notice thing that I didn't think it was enough time to have them prep for this. But in our group chat that we have from the job, we were discussing like the controversial thing that Kyrie Irving did recently, which is that moving forward, he's going to most likely, which I don't think he's going to sustain for the whole season, but he's going to most likely start, addressing the media with written statements because he doesn't want his words to be misconstrued or twisted and everything like that. Now, the funny thing is that with Lucas has always been a proponent of the guys that have to be professional, they're getting paid this money. They just have, that's part of the job, talking to the media. And he always had like a little bit of a disdain on how some of the players might react to the media in regards to how they might respond to a media person, how they might ignore a media person, how they might, resent speaking to the media. He always felt that, it's not a big deal, especially people like Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving now, especially, and different things like that. So before I let you guys go, I just wanted to paint this picture. Like the argument that we had in Kel, I can understand both sides. I'm not really, I like to hear what the players have to say as well and different things like that. So I'm not opposed to it or not, or anything like that. But the problem is that a lot of time, which we all know, the media tends to, write the narrative. And sometimes the media writes narratives where it does affect the player. So in defense of Kyrie, and not because he's a Brooklyn Net, but in defense of him, sometimes these things are valid. Whereas, like, all right, I say certain things, and now you causing this conflict between me and my team by me saying I don't think there's a head coach, stuff like that. And that already going to be written and spin to making like, oh, he don't really respect Steve Nash and stuff like that. And that can cause problems in the locker room. That can cause problems with teammates and different things like that. Look at the narrative that they had for Carmelo Anthony, where it was like, oh, Melo, he's washed. He can't do this. He can't do that. He doesn't want to come off the bench. He doesn't want to make sacrifices. He doesn't want to do such, such, and such. The man had to practically have a show with Stephen A. Smith to practically beg to get back into the NBA. Same thing with Russell Westbrook. Oh, he's a terrible teammate to have, and blah, blah. And all his teammates have, rave reviews for him being such an exceptional teammate. So it's so crazy to hear these different things that it makes it kind of weird. You know what I mean? So, Hollister, what's your take on that?
Kyrie not speaking to the media, I don't see it as a problem. I feel like they blown it out of proportion because they know Kyrie's a sensitive person. Certain stuff would trigger him, and he might say something wrong or might say something that offends people or make his teammates feel away. I think they trying to say like, oh, they trying to use this to like cause controversy between the team and, because him and KD, those guys, they don't really say much. They're private guys. When they do speak, the media always misconstrued everything they say. But I think Kyrie just want to keep things quiet. I'm assuming he must have got the okay from Adam Silver and everybody else in the NBA to just release a statement instead of speaking. He said he want to let his play on the court do all the talking, which I understand. But I think he just want to go out there, have fun, play the game of basketball, which he loves, and just write a little statement and keep it going. So that way he don't cause any controversy. Like Steve Nash is a rookie coach. He don't want to start say something. They might twist it up and make it seem like, oh, he's bashing his coach or he doesn't like his coach or this or that.
Yeah,
I don't see anything wrong with it. I just it's fine. It's okay with me because he could also do like the Marshawn Lynch way. He could just say one word or just say I'm here so I don't get fined. So I guess the NBA is okay with that. Let's see how long this lasts.
Yeah, true. Manelik?
Yeah, so as far as Kyrie and not talking to the media and players in general, so I think it is kind of a double-edged thing. So on the one hand, right, there's plenty of times where the media does take things that people say and twist it, and they have ripple effects. It does have an impact on the team, players, their mindset, or even with things with trades or this, that, a lot of those things get out there in the media, they get talked about, and then it does have an impact in the locker room sometimes or in players' mindset or their psyche or the just the chemistry, everything like that. So I could understand him feeling like Hollis was saying, and like he said, like he wanna I think it's for him it's more so about I kind of talk and I do different things and I try to show people kind of who I am somewhat. And a lot of that distracts people from my talent, my game, and what we trying to do here. So I think it's more him like I'm just gonna fall back from doing too much talking and I'll put out, these statements and leave it at that. On the other side, I do understand, I think you said it was Lucas, but his point that it is kind of part of their job, right? Now, if he got it cleared by the NBA or something like that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are certain obligations that come with some of that stuff. Even with that, then you could still find a way within holding your obligations, but still falling back if that's what you feel you need to do. But I also feel that written statements get misconstrued a lot as well. Sometimes more than, people just speaking, because sometimes certain things are lost in people's interpretation of what is like a text message. Sometimes you don't got the context, you don't got the tone, you don't have other stuff with it. So sometimes that can be misconstrued. So there's no perfect way, but for him, it just might help him, and they could probably maybe work with him and curate it. It's a little more controlled if it's a written statement potentially. Like if the team and his team or whoever, they could be like, yo, this might come across crazy. Like it gives more room for that instead of like an off the cuff you or a question with he just speak his mind. So I think it will be for him or the team. I think it could be a good thing. At the end of the day, like y'all know, I'm a big Kyrie fan. He's one of my favorite players in the league right now, and I just want to see him go out there, do his thing with KD and the Nets, and then really compete for a championship. So we'll see how it goes. So once again, I think for him this might be helpful, but more important than how it turns out is that he's going into the season, I feel like, with that mindset, like I'm going to keep it more about the ball and my game and my talent and let that speak for me.
Melicon beat me to some of that stuff when it comes to like the writing and talking. I kind of he was kind of going in and out on my side, so I didn't 100% hear what he was saying. But I'll just say what I was feel anyway. I think he was saying that he should write more than actually speaking. Right? Was that what you were saying? Like he should just do written statements. I think I
Well, I
heard you
was
say
saying,
that.
I was saying that I think for him, the written statements might
Mm-hmm.
help because he will be able to either have it reviewed by his team or other people, or take his time
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being a little more
Oh,
off the
okay.
cuff and just him
Right.
just speaking from his head and saying something crazy or something like that, or that comes across as crazy or whatever. But yeah.
I actually, I actually think he should talk to the media. I think talking to the media is the only thing he should do. I wouldn't write, not him write, but I wouldn't speak to a reporter that's writing like a writer because they would misconstrue his words. But if it comes out of his mouth on TV where you could see him speaking, I think that's fine. I'm cool with him not wanting to talk to the media. Also, like I'm a sports head. I don't give a damn what some of these athletes talk about sometimes, unless it's talking about, real life. How, with like this past summer with the racial injustice and everything, stuff like that. I'm cool with. Like I'm all for that. But if not, I don't need to hear these guys every time a game finishes. I know it's an obligation. It's something in their contracts, and it's in the collective bargaining agreement with the obligations. I get it, but it doesn't make my day to hear what somebody said after a game. I can live without it. Um, so if he doesn't want to speak to the media, I think he should get a pass. To be honest, sometimes these guys get a little cranky with the media, and it becomes a problem. Then so now don't get me wrong. I like those viral rants that people make on press conferences, sort of like Allen Iverson with his practice, and the guy on the Colts back in the day with the playoffs. Like don't get me wrong. You get your viral moments, but other than that, I don't really care about what people say in the media about a game. Or to be honest with you, I could let the analysts on the shows talk about what they feel and everything. Because a lot of times the players, when they're after the game, if they're losing, they're cranky. They got a little attitude. They don't sound like they want to be there. So sometimes you don't want to deal with somebody sound like they got an attitude, and then if they're winning, yeah, they're happy too. But sometimes even them are a little cranky, got an attitude with the media. Like I don't want to see people's attitudes and hear how they talk. Like Bill Belichick. Like I don't need to hear someone talk like that all the time. So that's why I think sometimes I don't really need to hear the media. I don't really need to hear the athletes or the coaches talk, because a lot of times it's like, oh God, like why don't they just get off, just walk off, just say two or three things and just walk off. That's my personal opinion. I don't really care to. It's not a make or break thing for me. Like I'm not gonna go back and did you hear what they said at the press conference about the free throws made? Like I'm not gonna think about that. I'm thinking about what happened in the game. So I could do without it. It's not a big deal. And if Kyrie feels that he doesn't want to talk to the media, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and I mean I agree. I mean I look at it from this way. I was saying that in one of the same conversation I had with the guys in the text thread. I was saying that a lot of times, like, don't get me wrong, I do like hearing sometimes the perspective from the players, but we just watch a game. Not how many of us really like sit down after the game is over and just wait for to hear what Kyrie has to say about the game. We None of us really care about that. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. But there's always a place for everything because, like we all know, there's people who they thirst for that. There's people who care about only just the game. There's people who care about the behind the scenes and getting to know what the players want to think. But like you said, if I just had a frustrating game and I lost by a stupid play or a bad call, like really don't want to be interviewed. I really don't want to be talked to or spoken to at all. You know what I mean? I don't want to give a statement for certain things like that. And a lot of times I understand that media is more than just, you know, the players giving their response to what happened. You got the players, promoting themselves. You got the other media covering the game. So as far as a monetary thing, I understand that there's a purpose behind the players sitting down at the table and giving these networks and these other people's jobs. It's a cycle. So that you can't look at it from the perspective as if I was a player that, I don't have to do this because I'm getting paid to do this. Like, that's part of the millions that you're making. And I hate to say this because I hate, like I always say this all the time, I hate bringing up the value of the money into it. But at the end of the day, that's part of the whole reason why you get paid, is because these outlets, like these media outlets, which is like the ABCs, the ESPNs, whatever it is, that the NBA TVs, all these other things like that, your local networks, your TNTs, thank you. Right. All of those places, they have an investment in the sport. So they need some of this stuff to fill in those fodder. Like, look, Town was earlier watching some like the 1988, NBA Eastern Conference Finals, and they had, Isaiah Thomas and Kevin McHale actually speaking on what they were doing back then. Like, that's something that people care to hear. Like, well, what was he thinking about back then? What were they doing back then? So I say all that to say, I understand why they ask the players or put it in their contract that they have to at least give 10 to 15 minutes to media obligations. I understand that. The thing with the writing, and I understand what Malik was saying too, is that a lot of times it happens to us right now. Like, I might write a text and send it to somebody, and somebody might assume that I might be saying it in a kind of aggressive way, or I'm saying it in a totally different way than what I meant it. So a lot of times when you speak to someone, you can kind of get the inflections in the words and understand based on their body language and their demeanor what intent that they had behind what they said. The issue with the Kyrie situation, that Kyrie has been a guy who's been really try to be cerebral with a lot of his stuff. He very, outspoken, a lot of different things, and he was already criticized for the whole bubble thing. He was criticized for the flat earth thing. He was criticized for the not having a coach thing. And I guess he's getting to the point and I'm being a bad teammate and hurting the team. You know what I mean? So as far as like, winning. So a lot of that is like affecting them because, like I said, once the media gets a narrative and they start spinning that narrative, it becomes the norm. And then you have to play, defender. I watched that video recently where Kevin Durant was talking to the media about like his injury and different things like that. And he seemed very cold. Like people asking him questions and it sounded like people who know him, and they was asking questions. He was just straight to the point and like really just serious. And there was no kind of like freedom or like feeling comfortable with speaking with the media. Even when he went to not ESPN, the First Take, like sometime last year, like he was very like, on edge, is ready to question somebody, like when Max Kellerman said, the hip bone, this one connected to the calf bone. He said, calf bone? Like, there's no calf bone, trying to like get on Max, but Max was being funny, just making a song about it and making a joke. But KD was so riled up and tight that he was like, nah, like, you know what I mean? So I say all that to say a lot of these players, especially in this era now, are more sensitive to these things and sensitive about the image and sensitive about what needs to be said. I know a lot of times we quote the Last Dance or we reference the Last Dance, but even in the Last Dance, you see Michael Jordan was like he's getting sick and tired of answering questions. He had to sit in his room sometimes watching movies all day. The man father just got killed, and they asking him, "Oh, is it because you're gambling?" Like, he had to answer those questions. Like Larry Bird had to deal with the question when Isaiah Thomas said, "Oh, if Larry Bird wasn't white, he wouldn't be getting all these accolades or whatever." You know what I mean? So Magic Johnson had to, have a press conference for having AIDS and HIV. It's like there's a lot of different things that people had to stand forward and deal with back then that I don't think a lot of these players will be able to deal with now. It's a murky part of the business And it's a slippery slope when you start doing what Kyrie's trying to do, because just say LeBron and everybody else start to do that. The NBA will be really pissed off, and it's going to become a mandate where you have to speak to the media, which they already have on the contract, but it ain't going to be no written statement. You got to sit there and answer these questions. So it's just a weird dynamic. Like I said, I understand both reasonings behind it. I just think that, some people can take it overboard with, this situation and make it into a bigger deal than it needs to be. And one last thing, and then I'll let you guys, chime in. Lucas' argument was also, now he puts his teammates in a bad position, because now I got to answer questions about Kyrie. Like, well, why Kyrie didn't come out? Like, how's he feeling? Like the same thing when they were doing Michael Jordan, when Scottie Pippen was mad about his contract. Like, what's going on with Scottie? Like, oh, y'all got to talk to Scottie. Don't ask me no questions about that. You know what I'm saying? It's like that can also cause a rift. So it's just a weird dynamic. Weird dynamic.
Let me answer that one there. I'm gonna answer that one that you're saying, that question. He's saying, well, the teammates are gonna have to take that burden. I don't think so. You know why? Because Kyrie just put out that I'm not talking to the media. Like, he announced it. He put it out there. It's not like he just suddenly stopped without a warning or anything. He actually came out and said, I'm not doing any media press conferences or anything. So by him doing that, I think the only thing that'll happen is the media will still try to attempt to talk to Kyrie, and that'll annoy him. I don't think the Dinwiddies and these guys are going to be asked that much about him, unless it's like, so that turnover that Kyrie made, how do you feel about that? But as far as them talking about why is Kyrie not talking to the media, nah, nobody's going to say that, because Kyrie came out and said, I'm not going to talk to the media. So the media will be kind of foolish to go to other players and ask questions like that, because they already knew the answer, because he came out and said, again, like I just said, he said he's not talking to the media. And the media does ask a lot of dumb questions. So I'm pretty sure somebody in the media will come out and say something like that or ask. Yeah, they're gonna that's what I'm saying. Like, they're gonna ask.
I know what you mean,
yeah. They're gonna ask, but I'm just saying, like, he put it out there, so there's no reason. Like, that would be my response if I was another player. I'd be like, well, he told you guys he wasn't talking to y'all, right? Okay, there you have it. And that's how I'd leave it, if you ask me, to answer Lucas's question.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, like, I get that, but like you said, we already know what's going to happen. Like, I thought he said he's going to only react to the media with just like those written statements. Like, he's not going to not speak to the media, but he's not going to, like, sit down at the press conference and talk. He's just going to issue written statements, try to switch it up and change it. So I don't know. I mean, it is a thing that, like I said, it doesn't really bother me much, because at the end of the day, I care about the team's success. I care about them playing ball on the court. Like I said, sometimes I like to hear it. For right now, like, I'm waiting for basketball to start. So seeing a little clip of them playing ball, or seeing somebody say, "Y'all seen Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant looks real good right now." Or I seen John Wall. Or I seen Kyrie, and everybody putting in that work. Like, I like to hear those little things and seeing a little bit behind the scenes. But that's because it's getting close to the NBA season starting. It's not necessarily because I want to hear what Kyrie had for breakfast. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I understand that. Like I said, he put it on himself to a little bit, but we already know how the media can be. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? Like, once that initial narrative gets started and you don't have that person to clear that narrative, it tends to get to a point where it gets kind of, funny. So I guess what Lucas was trying to illustrate and say is that now if he does it, and then Aubrey brought this up as well, then let's say like the other star players say, wait, Kyrie don't got to answer these questions, and he can do that, I'm going to do that. And then this person, I'm going to do that. Then everybody and their mom's doing it. Then now it becomes a problem, because now the NBA has, contractual obligations with these networks to have these interviews happen, to have these beat writers have their job and get their stuff at the paper. That's how they get paid. That's how they get their advertisement. That's how they get certain things. So at the end of the day, you have to kind of toe the line. You have to play the game, if you will, or just strictly let's ask a basketball question. Kyrie, you don't got to get all philosophical with your stuff. Just say, yo, yeah, we had a great game. I hit that shot. It was cool. I saw Kevin Durant. I passed it. We played beautiful basketball. All right, that's it. Everybody else have a good night. And let's walk out. You don't got to talk about, we don't got to we don't have a coach. I could be the coach tonight. I was the coach tonight. You don't got to say all that other stuff like that. And I know you want to speak your truth, but let's be honest here. Most of the people watching basketball and watching sports, they just care about the sports activity. They don't really care about your social commentary, which is unfortunate to a certain degree because we all humans, but they don't care about that. They don't care about what you're going to do. They just want to talk about the game and stuff revolving around the game. So it's just a weird situation. Mel, you was going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, something similar to what you were saying about then other players feeling a way about it. And outside of the other stars in the league or the league overall and that ripple effect, I can see it maybe having a issue with the team itself or chemistry. Kind of like, there's been a lot of talk now about Kawhi and Paul George getting preferential treatment and all that stuff, and how some players felt the way about that. So probably talk to his team and he put it out.
You kind of went out a little bit.
No, I was saying that
you said Kawhi and preferential treatment.
Yeah, like how Kawhi and Paul George were there's a lot of talk about them getting preferential treatment, how that affected the locker room, and other players was getting tired of feeling away, and then that messed with chemistry, this, that, and the third. If other players on the Nets, or let's say they feel a way that Kyrie ain't coming to the post-game interview, or he ain't answering certain questions, and he being a diva, hopefully that doesn't happen. But that's the only other thing I was gonna say I could see maybe coming up if things don't go, like if they're struggling or if people ain't gelling in a certain way, then people start looking for anything. And then they could bring that up, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like they just looking for like something to start up to try to mess up the team chemistry, because they know they focus on making gelling together as a team, working well with Steve Nash and all the other rookie coaches, and trying to distract them from their ultimate goal, which is a championship. They want to cause drama. They know Kyrie don't really care for the media, and KD don't really care for them, so they looking to cause a rift between probably the two of them and the whole team and Steve Nash maybe, but Kyrie probably just caught on. He just like, look, let me just focus on basketball and I'll write my stuff and keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to that to a certain extent. I just feel that, look, man, it's like, it's a sad thing to say, but a lot of these players, man, they are so gifted, and because it's a business, and at the end of the day, and it's about entertainment. It's not like how when they used to play in high school or play in college or play in AAU and little like street tournaments where you just play ball and just have fun. It's so many different things involved with basketball now just to make the ends meet so they can get these mega contracts that they begin. So a lot of times there's other things, like you just said, there's a lot of different things. There's people have to paint a story. Let's be honest. When the bubble hit and nobody was playing sports, what was going on in Sports Center? Nothing. What was going on in First Take? Nothing. Like, these guys need that. They need that. And I'm not trying to say they need each other. I'm not trying to say that's why they're making up all these different things, but it's all about speculation. It's sometimes fun for people to try to see why this is going on. And then also sometimes you might speak to Kyrie. You see like this Kyrie Irving. We look at the stats here. You notice that when he played with this team, even though he might have did this, when he's not on the court, they play more fluid. They play better. Even though they might love him as a teammate, they realize like, hey, man, we can't play with each other. Same thing with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Like, you see things right there. They said they can't play with each other. They don't want to play in the same team. All of a sudden they got beef all of a sudden. So then now they have to come out in the narrative and say they don't have beef. But saying that they have beef makes it more intriguing, make it clickbait. People want to click on the article. People want to click on the link to see what's really going on. So it's a lot of little different things that go on behind the scenes with all different things. And we watch these movies where they have like the newspaper, chief executive saying, all right, spin that top, Spider-Man, slaps an old lady, like, or this person, Superman, pees on the moon. Like, they'll say some stupid joint just to get clickbait titles. So it is an unfortunate thing. However, it's the usual suspects. It's people like Kevin Durant, who got burner accounts, and he forgot to switch from his burner to one of his burner accounts, and he got caught saying what he had to say, and then people clowning him for that. Then you got Kyrie Irving talking about all these different things, and the earth is flat, and have our own league, and different things like that. So people hear that, they're like, oh, here we go with Kyrie again with all this extra stuff. Then you got the Russell Westbrooks, who might be kind of like, what are you talking about? And y'all tripping and all that stuff like that with the media, and then it becomes an issue. Because you don't see people like, and I hate to say it, but you don't see people like LeBron really having issues like that. He might say one or two little things that they might try to use for fodder, but then he come and clean it up. So there's certain players who understand what it is, And there's certain players who just don't like it. You know what I mean? And it's just the nature of the beast. There's got a lot of people who might be introverted who don't like to be in front of people. Like I was just looking at one of these DJ Vlad joints like a couple of days ago, and it was this guy who played with Charles Barkley back in the day. And he said every time he had to play, he had to drink a 6-pack because he didn't like crowds. Like he didn't know he had that kind of like issue.
That was Richard Dumas.
Yeah.
I remember him.
Yeah, like he said he didn't know he had like an issue with crowds and different things like that and get the medication that he got now. He said he had to be drunk. He said he'll go out there and kill, but he's like he couldn't be around the people. Like he just hated playing in crowds, like to the point that he didn't want to play basketball. So it's like you got people who have anxiety like that. You got people who got to smoke weed before they go on the court. You got people who got to do all the different things. It's like we don't know a lot of these players' phobias. Like, well, look at that kid who couldn't even have a good career because he was
something.
Yeah, he was too afraid to fly in a plane. Like he was too scared to get in a plane. That they said, "Yo, I'm sorry, you're a talented kid, but you can't play." And he has a legit phobia. The man probably had tremendous anxiety. So we just don't know. We just see them for their talent, and a lot of times we kind of dehumanize them in a sense. So I can understand why, but at the end of the day, it's also part of the game. So you have to like pick and choose your battles and pick and choose what you're willing to fight for and what you're willing not to fight for. To me, I feel that the media obligation is really not that serious. If you just stick to the points, it's like, yo, hey, yeah, we were up 20, we let the league go. Fortunately, we kept the game in grass. Yes, we won. Yep, everything was good. It was a great pass. All right, we played beautiful basketball. Take care. They have these classes for these kids. They have rookies and all the stuff like that. Speaking to the media, they have these things already for them. So all they got to do is stick to the script. You know what I mean? Yes, it's generic to stick to the script and you move on and do your thing. Like use your platform when you need to express yourself in a way or express a certain situation, like how they use their platform to express the whole Black Lives Matter and what was going on with the social injustice to Black people and people of color in this country. That was the perfect time to go off the beaten path and say your own spiel. But when it's just basketball, just keep it basketball. So that's what Kyrie's pretty much saying. I'm just going to stick to let my action on and off the court speak for itself. I ain't gonna say much. I might give you a written statement here and then keep it like that. So it is what it is, and I think that's how they should approach it. Not make this into a bigger thing. And I understand how people like Lucas might feel, but he more so like you gotta do it. That's your job, and that's when it gets kind of iffy for me. But other than that, it is what it is.
Let it slide. He's a Knicks fan. What do you expect from a Knicks fan?
Right? Yeah. But I mean, other than that, those are the two topics that I had. Unless you guys have another topic, I mean, we can make this one a quick one and call it. But that was it for me. I know we have the Spence versus Garcia fight tonight.
Spence and Dan Garcia.
And you also have UFC fight night going on. So I might try to check up on some of those games and the fights. Excuse me, not games in a minute. But aside from that, that's about it that I have.
Yeah, man, we're just counting down to the season. Got one more weekend and it's the preseason. I could care less about the preseason, so I'm just waiting until the 22nd.
No,
and then
like
of course on the 20th, it's a big day.
Yeah, that's a draft night. So.
I defend my title. 3-time champion. Because even though Ryan, it shows on our standings that he has a gold medal. That's because the league stopped when he was first place. But I would have won that title too. So.
You gotta ask.
We don't know.
But the 3-time champ, the GOAT, he'll be defending his title. It's just gonna be
we can end it here, you know.
Yeah. I think Hollister is absolutely right with this one.
Right.
Defend it right here because I don't know what this guy is talking about right now.
You're absolutely correct. You should end the fantasy season because I'm gonna win.
Yeah, no, we're talking about ending this conversation right here. Yeah, I mean, it should be a fun one. As you guys know, we mentioned this in our podcast before, but we have like a fantasy league that I run that I took over from Lucas because he was doing a lot of corrupted things in the past, and it's been fun. We have been up in the ante, and it's kind of fun to have like a little fantasy basketball, and we all jive and talk, and we use Yahoo. We don't do points; we do head-to-head based on like statistical categories, which is fun. So we had a really good time doing that. So
doing it for about what 10 years. Yeah, I think 9 years, right?
About 9 years. Yeah, I've been involved.
Yeah, man.
It's been a minute, man. I remember
2011.
Yeah. We've been doing that, and I think I took over maybe 2013, maybe I don't remember. One of those.
It was 2011. That was my first year.
Yeah, 2011. Because 2011 since I've been taking over, but before that I played a couple of other times, and it was Lucas running it, and it was bad.
Yeah, that's the first time I ever played fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
It's 2011. How many times I won a title, by the way, guys? If y'all remember. If y'all don't remember,
I can't recall.
I don't.
Mike, we gotta edit this part out.
I'm glad. 3 times. Been to the finals 4 times. I lost to Kelvin. He got lucky. It's all good. But I'm 3-1 in the finals. Anybody else won it more than once? I'm waiting. No? All right. Thanks.
It's sad because the first year I started the league, I made it to the finals and I lost 5-4.
And then you didn't make the playoffs since until maybe like a couple years ago.
No, I made the playoffs two years in a row. I would have made the playoffs this year, but the bubble happened.
You only made the playoffs. You only made the playoffs twice ever. But we don't want to get into that. We could do a fantasy.
I'm winning the chip this year. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. I'm winning the championship. I heard it here first. December 5th.
You're not winning the championship.
2020, 7:01 p.m. Y'all heard it first. I'm gonna win the chip.
We already know you picking both Ball brothers, so we know you ain't winning.
I ain't picking no Ball brothers. You crazy? I ain't picking out one of them cats.
You picking all three? You picking all 3 of them? Man.
Yeah, if I pick that and if I win it, then I got to give LeVar his credit because he said all 3 of them. That's when they gonna win the chip. So that's probably the only time they gonna win a chip if it's on somebody's fantasy team.
I guarantee you, he picks one of the Ball brothers. I guarantee it.
I mean, and if I was, it's only gonna probably be Lonzo because he's the one who's in the league. I would have picked LaMelo, but for what? For him to go try to go like and score. I don't need all that, but we'll see how it's going to pan out. I'm looking forward to the draft and seeing what the draft order is. I still got to finalize a couple of people. So far, everybody seemed to be down. I just got to make sure Ryan's going to play and take it from there. Not that he was hating, he was just saying that he hasn't been following, so he don't know yet, but he'll let me know. But he hasn't let me know, so I'll talk to Lucas.
It's nothing to follow, really.
Yeah, but I guess you're trying to figure, like how it's going to be.
Like a lot of changes and then the new format.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
That's
it's just 10. It's just 10 less games.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the same thing. My only issue how it's going to be. I did also add an additional injury spot that I figured for like the COVID thing.
Jesus Christ.
And Lucas like, you had 3. I was like, no. I'm like, I only added. It was 1. I made it 2. And the only reason I did that because just say like for instance, if you look at like the football, right? Like right now, you got people like Cam Newton had to sit out a game, couple of weeks because of COVID. So in the event, God forbid, somebody who, and Lamar Jackson too. So let's say somebody get hit, I'll do that.
Can we make an agreement that this is just for this year? Because
I mean, I'm gonna keep it for this year, but I know most people gonna be beasting on it. That's how I said this year.
To keep it real, to be honest with you, I don't want no injury reserve. Like that's how we was doing it years before that. Like if you ask me, I know it's not going to change that way, but just still, come on. Because then next thing you know, somebody going to want 3. Next thing you got to have about 10 IL spots.
It's funny because like when I was going over the league, when I was renewing it and fixing it, it was funny. Like they have like that option, and you can have up to 10 cats injury reserve. I was like, and I was making it is ridiculous. I was like, well, you're gonna have a whole second squad. You know what I'm saying? Like that's ridiculous. But everybody, you know what I mean? Like
league team.
You know what I mean? Like G League affiliate. And Lucas is like, yeah, man, that sounds cool, being funny. But my thing, I was hesitant to do the 2. The only reason why I did the 2 because I know that this year, because I remember Ronaldo had mentioned that that he was like, yo, I wonder what's gonna happen with this whole situation and everything like that. So I already know that if that was the case and somebody get COVID and let's say like Steph Curry get COVID or he had to be on a quarantine thing, he missed a few games. I figured that you could put him in your injury reserve because that would be considered like an injury, and then you could pick somebody else. But that's it. But if they don't allow the COVID players to be injured, then I'm changing it back to 1.
Not yet. I mean, because of COVID, it makes sense.
Like, just make it
just one spot.
Yeah, that's what I said. This year,
just for one, just for this year, man. Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you guys again for listening to the podcast. I know it wasn't a lot that we talked about today, but I felt that it was enough for us to talk about. And it was 2, major events that happened this week in regards to the NBA. I want to give a shout out to Menelik, Tyrone, and Hollister for joining me this evening. Again, to the podcast. We really do appreciate the support. I mean, I think we went up in the subscriber count. So please keep sharing it, keep liking the videos, please. Comment. That helps the channel grow. It's free. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people say, like support at next level is free. We're not asking for any money. We're not asking for nothing else. We just ask for the support. And it's as simple as just subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button. There's nothing more, nothing less. That's all we ask. And if you can do that, that'll be greatly appreciated. So again, I want to thank you guys for listening. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe and God bless.